Oak City Move is a podcast on WKNC's 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh where we highlight people and organizations creating positive change in the Triangle and beyond. Oak City Move can be heard on air every other Monday on 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh or online at wknc.org/listen. For episodes and more information, go to our blog at blog.wknc.org or follow us on SoundCloud at WKNC 881. Hello, 88.1 WKNC Raleigh. The song you just heard was House of Mango by Surf Ninja 3. I'm Sophia Magnanini, your host, and you're listening to Oak City Move. Today we're joined by a very special guest, Donovan Zimmerman, Executive Director of the Paperhand Puppet Project, a project that creates art that inspires connection. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me. I know that with everything coming up, it must be very busy over there. But why don't you just start by introducing yourself and letting listeners know what the Paperhand Puppet Project is all about?
Okay, yeah, my name's Donovan, and I started Paperhand with Jan Berger about 25 or so years ago, and we started out as both artists and activists who wanted to, turn our art into some way of amplifying messages that were important to us and largely centered around social justice and environmental justice and trying to get people to align themselves with a reverence for the natural world as opposed to, like, I don't know, reverence for just shopping or money or just other things that were sort of feel like a little bit of a distraction from where we kind of need to start with um our sort of where our spirituality lies as human beings, basically. So we wanted to make our art about connecting with that sense of the sacred in the world around us with animals and rivers and trees and the sky as like treat them like the living beings that they are and sort of bring respect and I guess just a recognition of our integral nature with them and how deeply interconnected we are and sort of so some themes along the way have always been revolving around keeping the web of life kind of present in our minds, you could say, and also that there's no flourishing really without mutuality, and we have to sort of like lift each other up, if you will, and um, including all of the creatures and rivers and things that deserve rights as much as any corporation would deserve them. Um, and so we started in that vein, we started doing shows that were about, protecting the river in our own backyard, which was the Hall River, which is where Jan and I met. And we did a bunch of work with young people and other artists and things for many years, the Hall River Assembly and the Hall River Learning Celebration. Um, and then we, started doing these big shows every year starting in 1999, and that's been slowly growing. It's in Chapel Hill is where we do those at the Forest Theater, and we were also doing them for many years at the Museum of Art in Raleigh. But now we're taking the shows to Asheville, and we have plans to, and sometimes we've done them at DPAC, and we're planning to take them to Wilmington as well. So yeah, we not only do those shows, but we do a lot of community events and festivals and a lot of parades and where we bring out the giant puppets and masks and creatures and characters and sort of pass them out to folks and try to just bring some celebration and some joy to the community and to the world. That's the idea behind
Mm.
it in the basic.
Oh, that's amazing. It does such a good job of conveying like the messages that you were speaking about, respecting not just each other and stuff, but the world, nature itself. It also is just very impactful because you guys take it just a whole nother level with the puppets and just how big they are and detailed and like amazing to look at. And I could see kids, adults, like all ages just being totally entranced when at these shows, which is really cool. You did kind of go over how it has evolved since your first show. I don't know if you kind of want to go more in depth in that or what first made you want to start or
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the word wonder, which is, I think, a real origin point for us. It's a place where we started from with our own sort of um, awe and wonder that we find in the natural world. Jan and I both just are very enamored of the beautiful manifestations of creation in every direction. And so we're amateur naturalists, and we're, collectors of cool things, and look, we like to study the world a bit, and the natural phenomenon. And and then we started to wanted to reflect that sense of wonder back, and try to inspire others to be tuned in with that, because if we can start there, then maybe the next step right after that would be to like protect and want to keep these things around. Um, is the idea is that you get people bought in with their heart, and then maybe they'll take it into action, um, as far as like just not, I don't know, poisoning the rivers, or I don't know, just trying to be more sustainable in our behaviors, which I think that there are lots of ways out there, and I think that sometimes we um, can tend to choose the easier, sort of more convenient and a little bit more destructive path. And I'm not saying that I'm not guilty of that sometimes. I just saying that in our work, we're trying to put out this idea of our codependency with the environment that we have, that if it gets sick and poisoned, we're also sick and poisoned. It seems like very basic and common sense, but it also doesn't get followed as a general rule, unfortunately, with the way that we have all gone in this society and world. But um yeah, the evolution has been, we started out, you know, I would say that we started out in a slightly more janky style, is what I would call it. It's like a puppetry term that we use, which like things were really kind of just like stapled together, and a little on the funky sort of crusty side is another puppetry term. And our crusty puppets, I love that phase, but I mean, I feel like we've gotten a little bit better at our craft over the years, and we've really tried to make things more lightweight and more comfortable to wear, and also just a little bit more aesthetically. I think our aesthetic has just changed over the years, and I don't want to say we've gotten fancier, but we've definitely upped our game. Because I don't think we're too fancy. We still just like sew together cloth and paper mache stuff, and then shake it around, and try to bring life to it. So in a way, it was like, as we're trying to bring life to the art that we make by making it animated and come to life with music and all the things, is we're just trying to bring life to the community that we're in, and to the people who get to see the show. It's a common saying now, this is giving me life right now, and it's like I want our work to be that something that really sort of is either a balm for some of the hurts in the world that we feel, or some little bit of joy or uplift that can, just carry you through. I think art is a powerful, needed tool in that way. And so um, I think we've come a long way, and it's hard to say, exactly what that means. And we're more stable than we've ever been as an organization, which feels good since we became a nonprofit just a few years ago. Um, People who've been able to have contributed to help us, and we've gotten grants, and it's been a little bit more um, stable and less, swinging from one gig to the next, and hoping to not just run out of money and completely, which I got kind of tired of that as an artist, especially with how much I felt like we were valued in the community in general. So I feel like we've come a long way, and we provide jobs for a number of people, and there's a lot of sort of things like that have happened that I wasn't expecting in the beginning.
the themes and different stories that you tell throughout the projects themselves. I feel puppetry is such a great medium to use for that, since it shows the depth that you all care about these problems and like telling them, but also telling them in these beautiful ways that'll really get people's attention, and also not only rising inspiration into being a better person and doing these things to help our environment, but then also this rise of inspiration in the art form as well, where people might be thinking, oh, well, that's cool, and start doing things kind of similar, or it might rouse.
I consider myself to be a spark. Like I may not be like really great at any one art form, but I do a lot of the different ones. I love to be in the music and the building and the sculpting and the painting and the storytelling. And but I feel like being engaged with the creative process in general, however it manifests in your life, thinking creatively, acting in more creative ways, getting creative about how we create a future that we can all survive in. To me, that is just the antithesis of doing something destructive. You know, it's sort of like there's plenty of destructive things that happen just sort of unconsciously all the time, and they just accept it as normal. And I don't know why it would be considered special or abnormal to be sort of leaning into our creative instincts as human beings, because obviously that's there from the beginning of humans. Puppetry's been around since the beginning of humans, you know, from like a cave wall where someone was using the shadow of the firelight to create more dramatic uh, experience for the storytelling, that carried on into, finding a tradition of puppetry in every culture around the world. And if I can take a little bit, I take inspiration from that, and I would say that in regards to what you said earlier, that like the best art that I experience when I go see a play or a musical, or I go to an art show, or I see art like in a movie or hear music, all of the different ways we take in art, it in some ways the best of it makes me want to be like a little bit better person, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, wow, people are capable of doing so much, why not we lean into those impulses toward, all the things that I've been talking about. That's just seems, I just figure why not, and if I also have this philosophy that if we take up everybody's time with creative endeavors and sort of beautiful parades and plays and manifestations of the creative divine, maybe there won't be any time left over to do all these destructive things. We'll just take up all the time.
I agree 100%. Art itself blossoms and blooms all these ideas of creativity and inspirations. And we are in a time where, like you were saying, there's so much destruction, even just destruction of the mind, like going on your phone and scrolling for a long time. This is, like you're saying, like the antithesis, the opposite, where not only are you doing something like yourself creating, but then it creates all these different branches for people also to be inspired and to create. And it just kind of keeps on going, which I really like. You were talking about art process. I was kind of curious on idea to the finished performance, what that process kind of looks like for you guys.
Well, it starts out with Jan and I sitting around in cafes drinking too much coffee, and we have our sketchbooks and we talk about the framework and what we're interested in doing in the coming year. And this usually starts around in December or January, sometime like that. We take a little bit of time off after the show is done running in August and September each year, and I don't know, just reconnect with our families and our own lives and get back, because it's very life consuming, because it's such a big production with, 30 puppeteers and band members and apprentices coming in from out of town, and the people that we hire. It's a lot of people. So um it's a big production in all the ways. Um we start out with that brainstorming process, and then we um keep refining and sketching and talking and thinking about what stories are really alive for us, and what's really motivating us or inspiring us, or what books we've read that are like sparking new thoughts. Um and then we start to turn that into a bunch of puppety And sometimes it's just also like I want to make a puppet that does this, that like unfolds and becomes another thing. It could start out with that as well. So all of those ideas just get kind of run through the grist mill of our brains as we bounce ideas off of each other. And then we bring in May, we bring in our apprentices, usually 6 to 8 people come in from different parts of the country. We got people who came in from UK and LA and Texas and Chicago. They were in from all over this year. Um, and then we have a team of studio artists, like usually 4 people or so. Who's like we have a lead costume person and a person who just knows how to build puppets and paint, and another person who's really good at all the detail work of making things function and engineering stuff. And we bring that team all together and we lay out the plan and we start building in May. We build May, June, July, and then we here we are in it's early August, and this Friday would have been opening night, but because of the flood, we moved it off to
Mm.
August 15th. So we have a little bit more time. And so we're finishing up everything here at the studio. We're practicing the shadow puppets, which are paper cuts that we make with X-Acto knives, and we mount them onto little sticks, and we use overhead projectors, and we use other types of lighting to so this year we're doing all of that onto a giant body that it represents the ocean. It's like a um giant blue body that's actually sitting up here in front of me. I know you can't really share this on the radio, but it's like
Oh,
this
wow, that is cool.
giant scrim. Um and we're gonna so we're finishing that up, and then we move to the Forest Theater this weekend, and we'll start doing dress rehearsals there. So that's basically how the process goes. But in the meantime, we also we do rehearsals and meet up with the puppeteers and practice and play with the masks and try to make it um, refine our um game there. And then we also meet with the musicians, and we develop the music um at the same time. So all the music is written starting again also in May, where we give all the ideas that we have to the band, and they start dropping musical sketches into a Dropbox folder, and then we just listen to them and decide what goes where or what pieces need to be developed, and then they keep developing them, and then we sort of mush together the puppeteers and the band and hope for the best. And we get it all roughed in, and then we refine it as much as we can until opening night. And then if I'm 100% honest, it even gets a little bit more refined after we get the show open, because we're practicing it, doing it over and over again in the week leading up. But I mean, that's the amount of time that we have to do the show as a full production and work out all the timing tweaks. And so things continue to get tweaked. But I mean, what I've always said is that opening night is always it's worth the $20, or whatever it is, very pretty low priced admission for how much work is going into it. And we certainly feel confident that we're arriving with a show that is presentable on opening night every year. Like I just, it's just true that it does get a little bit um more, polished,
Fine tune.
I guess, fine-tuned, polished, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as the run goes on. But we usually do it for about 2 months worth of shows, on the weekends only, but
It's cool to hear about all the different components that go into it, which, like, at first, if you're just thinking about it like surface level, you think, oh, you need band, like artists and stuff, but like the engineers of it all, like everyone has their own special abilities, which I think also helps it to be such a amazing when finished presentation project, because it's just highlights that you don't have to be really an expert in this area or an expert in this area if you like want to go in to do these certain things, which is really cool. I was kind of curious on when you're building the puppets, how long do you guys have a big puppet that like took a long time to do, or like
hmm. I mean, it kind of just depends because working on like one puppet at a time. We've got teams of people working on different ones, and so I jump around and work on different ones. So I mean, if I were to get a commission, I would, and it was for a giant puppet, depending on the details of it and how much it needed, I would give myself a couple, 3 weeks to just do it. Um, we really only work 4 days a week with our intern apprentice crew, studio artist crew, and it's like um the other time we either are like thinking about having meetings on what to build and how it's going and what the show is going to be. Jan and I will continue to do that through the process, and then we come in and we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just building. And for the longest time now, we've been doing these community work days on Saturdays where the apprentices and the studio crew all come in and work, but we also invite and open the studio doors to folks coming in and just paper macheing and helping us out in any of the different ways that we need. Now, we don't typically like just hand out our painting, like our finalized painting jobs and or sculpting even, but we have found that there are lots of little jobs that people can jump in on because we make a bunch of new stuff every year. This year we made a giant whale and we made a bunch of like beavers and a cat and a giant ocean puppet that's illuminated. The whale is illuminated also. Um, a giant sun, moon, and hands, and oh my God, just so many things. So like there's lots of things that people can jump in on these community work days. And so that actually helps us get a lot more things done in a one production than we would be able to do on our own because I don't think we would have, the ability to do that much paper mache in that much time. And but also people help us with, tons of sewing projects and things like that. And um so we really love that. It's a big part of Paperhand's mission to just create creative culture as opposed to just like doing something from our little sequestered artist castle. Um,
Mhm.
really just about getting people's hands in it and making it part of who we are as a larger community.
I really enjoy that. And also the creative culture, that phrase in itself. It is like you were saying, it gives so much more opportunity and also more inspiration. I was also interested, besides community, are there any other companies that you're more collaborative with or like in getting maybe some of the materials that you need? Or is it more like out of pocket, like you guys are getting everything you need by yourselves?
Well, we reach out to collaborators, but usually not other puppet companies as much, though I did have someone from String and Shadow. Her name is Emily McHugh, and she came in and worked with us for about 3 weeks this year. And I also had another person from Asheville named Mika, who was from a company called Street Creature up there, and he came in and helped me do some lighting, and she came in and helped me build some puppets while Jan was away for a little while, and I just needed some extra hands. So I love providing, some money to people, artists who want to just join in. But also this year was very collaborative in the writing of the show. Like we might have the ideas, but we don't always, do all of the writing. This year we did a lot less. Because it's a story, or the overall show's theme is about grandmother wisdom and water, sort of water warriors and water wisdom, I guess you could say. Water is a teacher. And so we reached out to Jackie Shelton Green, who is our poet laureate of North Carolina. She's an amazing writer, woman, person. And she wrote a lot of words for us to use. And we reached out to Dawn Landis, who is a singer-songwriter, who wrote some music for the Shadow piece and wrote the Shadow piece. Also, Claudia Lopez, who's from Chile, and she's kind of telling like a migrant story, from because we wanted to highlight that just like um, everything moves like water, stories move, people move. It's just been the way of things since the beginning. And if it doesn't move, then it's not alive. And so it just feels like migration and a lot of empathy needs to be brought to those conversations because it's like um just blanket statements don't work, for the nuance of all the stories of how people get here. And everyone has, everyone's family has a story of how they got here. I mean, unless you're Native American, which if they had the same kind of immigration policy that we're trying to implement, then none of us would be here,
Mhm.
um, people like myself, I should say. Um,
Mm.
there would be a whole thriving other thing going on. But I mean, it's just strange to um so there's things like that I feel like we need to be questioned and looked at, and what instead of just like, you know, being sort of like, I guess just like against one party or another, it's more like here's a story that one can relate with, of like a mother saving her children from political and violence and unrest in Chile, that came here and raised her children and brought the stories of that place with them. And it just is very I feel like important to make it more relatable to those who might be like um wanting to, stop people from coming here. It and I just don't, I like to just be um advocating for empathy and for widening our view, as opposed to narrowing and being more judgmental, or uh, having a lack of understanding of people's plight in the world. So we're telling all these different stories. So we reached out to these collaborators and had them work with us on what we're doing this year.
Especially, yeah, getting the other perspectives, I feel like is such an important part, and it just helps make the whole thing flourish even more.
Yeah, I am well aware that I'm, just a white male, cisgendered, blah blah blah. Like, and I don't think that, I certainly don't think I ever have all the answers. I just have a lot of questions, and I want to live into the questions, and I want to create organic, like, um, sort of mutual uplift collaborations and collaborative um experiences that people can, I feel like, will get more out of than just me, wanting to say whatever I'm going to say. I just happen to have, been able to establish the infrastructure for that kind of collaboration to go on.
Is really important because it's not using not only like your platform but your identity to help all these other people be heard as well, which I think is really important. I wanted to ask, since we're talking about like collaboration and community, what's something that you've learned about community and creativity while you've been working through Paperhand?
I think I've just learned that people are amazing and wonderful, and there's just um, a lot of energy out there for to just get involved again with creative culture when it's happening. And so providing that opportunity, or just at least nurturing a space where it's possible, is like a real win for my life and my fulfilling my own goals. But like, I've also learned that I have to be very intentional and careful, and try to be smart. That's not easy for someone like me, but I mean, I do make efforts to try to be smart about the choices that I make, and about the who um yeah, or and also, but it's not just about choices, it's about how I communicate, and how my bigness can sometimes, the bigness of my sort of like having a big vision, and I'm you know um can sometimes make other people feel small in some ways, and I try to be very mindful of that. So it's maybe more mindful of my own self, and the ways that I am in the world. And if I'm really working towards a deeper understanding of inclusion, and true collaboration, and equity, like it's all about um really, for me, it's about decentering myself, and making space for other voices to rise up. And I do still want to keep following my dream of and doing a lot of creative cool stuff, so I'm not going to stop that. But I am going to make sure that I'm paying attention and trying to tell important stories to our betterment, towards humanity's betterment. And I stay really focused on that. And so that's one of the things I've learned. I learned a lot about myself and how to be a better leader and a better person. And one of the ways to be a better leader is to be like water and to just get out of the dang way sometimes, and just let things go and let things be. And then, put some influence on things when it feels important or the right moment too. But so there's a balance there. Um, Certainly gotten a little bit better at, it feels a little less chaotic to put together a big production. At some points it was just like, oh my God, everyone just running around like, how are we going to pull this off? And we've done what we've done, and it's, our record speaks for itself. But I mean, now I have a lot more confidence in what we can create, um, and more possibilities of what we can create have opened up as I've learned those things.
I loved the water analogy because at some points that is like all you can do, but especially you are probably a more you know what's going on, all these new people kind of coming in, taking a step back, letting them also learn these new things, but still helping them along the way. But
Okay.
if you wanted to take the rest of this time to talk about the new upcoming show, The Gift, if you want to explain about that and how people can get involved and support it.
Yeah, so the gift is our 25th annual giant puppet extravaganza, if you will, and it's going to open up at the Forest Theater on August 15th. And it runs every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday till the end of September 28th. It really is just like a beautiful way to gather in under the trees and um, just experience live music and beautiful art and puppets moving and sort of storytelling and all of these different things coming together, stilt walking, mask costumes, giant illuminated whales, so many things. And so it's really worth checking out. I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find as much energy in a thing for as low of the ticket price as it is. But we just try to keep it accessible for people. It's really important to us. We still have a no one turned away for lack of funds. Policy is if someone comes and says, I don't have any money, it's like, well, you can still come in if you want to see the show. There's no like, but we do have a ticket price that you know, just, because
Yeah.
we have to sort of make it all work financially.
Mhm.
And some people who are able to give more, then it kind of subsidizes the, folks sometimes if they're not able to, um, pay something, but for like 20 or $25 though, is like people pay that to see like a random band on
Mhm.
a Thursday night in some like bar. And I just feel it is worth it if for sure. I don't have any questions about it, but if people doubt it, I'll give them their money back, honestly. Um, but the gift is really truly about different aspects of water and what we can learn from not only that element, but from grandmothers and grandmothers being these sort of strong, sovereign, um, you know, just kind of badasses, who can like who know what's up and they've been, and so we looked to grandmothers to get the words and the thoughts behind what we're doing this year. But we also have a bunch of beavers in the show because they're like they represent like these keystone creatures that really know how to make repair. And I think repair is a big part of what Paperhand is here to try to um, look at is how do we repair our own hearts and how to repair our communities and different torn and broken places in our world. And and part of that repair is done through art, not all of it, but the part that we're putting forward is about that.
As we come up on the end of our chat, I just want to thank you so much for coming in again and talking with me about this project that's just so amazing and so cool, creative. Thank you all for listening to Oak City Move. Once again, I'm your host, Sophia Magdanini, and if you're interested in listening to this episode again or to past episodes of the show, you can go to wknc.org/podcast and make sure to tune into our show every other Monday on WKNC 88.1 FM Raleigh.